Good, happy Wednesday morning, November 4th, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. If you are just waking up and joining us for this morning broadcast right here on the Riley King Network, we can tell you that we do not have a winner in the president race just yet. There are still 3 U.S. states to make a call either for which person wins that state, either Trump or Biden, those in the 3 states that are unknown right now. So we are still waiting results from 3 United States areas. But we can tell you at 2:30 a.m., President Donald Trump made remarks saying he is planning to take election results to the Supreme Court. He said all voting must stop. And he can't just say all voting must stop. If you voted yesterday, those votes must be counted, and your vote will be counted. Also, Trump is saying this is a major voter fraud and claiming victory. We can tell you that there is no evidence of voter fraud and things, so I don't know why Trump is saying those things, so it is very interesting. But still, 3 U.S. states to make announcement if Trump or Biden win in their area. So, right now, no winner in the president race and things. And now let's take a look at your COVID-19 updates. DHHS announces 132 new positive COVID-19 tests, 3 new hospitalizations. Daily PCR test positivity rate is 1.2%, officials say. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9.
Chapel Tractor has been in our family since 1955, when great-grandfather Pearlie and our grandfather George decided to sell tractors.
Numbers just released of the COVID-19 situation in New Hampshire. 132 confirmed cases have just been announced, bringing the state's total to 11,448. 9,515 of those people have recovered, 4% of those cases resulting in death. Tonight, the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services is addressing the rising number of COVID-19 cases. Over the weekend, the state saw the most new cases so far in one day, and the number of counties with significant transmission is growing. As winter approaches, health officials say people need to make smart choices.
Informal social gatherings is really where we're seeing a lot of transmissions. I think that we are going to see continuing escalation of COVID-19 cases in our communities from now through the end of the year.
Health officials continue to push mask wearing, social distancing, and good hand hygiene, as well as avoiding large crowds.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. COVID-19 in New Hampshire, important information. Let's take a look at that right now. There are 11,448 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. 9,365,360 number of people in the United States have tested positive. 483 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 784 number of people who have been hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire, and 484 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. And now let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where COVID-19 cases are and current cases. In Nashua, 76. And let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where total cases are in New Hampshire. Nashua, 1232. And now let's take a look at these three charts here. Let's start with the first chart here. New cases each day in New Hampshire in the purple. Daily new positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, new hospitalization. In red, deaths. Let's take a look at this chart here. Current cases in the purple. Total current COVID-19 cases. And in the orange, current hospitalization. Let's take a look at this chart here. Total cases. In the purple, total positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, total hospitalization. Red, deaths. And blue, recovered. Let's take a look at this chart here. Positive PCR test rate and daily PCR test. Let's take a look at this chart here. Age group of cases, female and male of cases, and risk information. Let's take a look at this chart here. Infections, hospitalizations, and deaths. And let's take a look at this chart here. Deaths, percent of New Hampshire population, race/ethnicity of cases, and hospitalizations. And a reminder of common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, chills, difficult breathing, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. How it spreads, and prevention tips. And that is a look at your COVID-19 updates. Now let's take a look at some results of election results from New Hampshire. Live New Hampshire election updates. Biden takes New Hampshire. Sununu, Shaheen, Custer, Pappas, clinch wins. Let's take a listen to that video.
Hey, Paul here, owner of Century Roofing. I personally wish to thank the thousands of our customers for supporting our team.
Now on where things stand on this election night, ABC and the Associated Press have just projected Joe Biden the winner of the presidential race here in New Hampshire.
In terms of the rest of the electoral vote, right now, 270, of course, needed to win the election, and their estimation right now is Donald Trump at 114 and Joe Biden at 187.
The two New Hampshire races that have already been called, will run through those. Governor Sununu reelected to a third term after defeating Democratic challenger Dan Feltus, and U.S. Senator Jeanne Shaheen also reelected to a third term, taking down Republican challenger Corky Messner. And now we move to the two congressional races here in the state that have still not yet been called.
In the 1st District, incumbent Chris Pappas is facing Matt Mowers. WMUR's Jennifer Crompton.
Okay, and there you go on that video. And now let's take a look at your full 2020 general election results. So, for New Hampshire presidential race, Joe Biden has won New Hampshire. For the governor race, GOP incumbent Chris Sununu has won. For the U.S. Senate general race, Democrat Jeanne Shaheen, incumbent, has won. For U.S. District 1, Democrat incumbent Chris Pappas has won. And for U.S. House District 2, Democrat incumbent Annie Custer has won. So that is a look at your election results for New Hampshire. USPS fails to meet deadline to sweep facilities in New Hampshire, other states for ballots. Lawsuit says many ballots might not have been delivered to election officials. Let's take a listen to that video from WR News 9.
Hey, Paul here, owner of Century Roofing. I personally wish to thank the thousands of our customers for supporting our team. At Century, our team...
Crowds today are on top of the more than 100 million Americans who have voted early. And a federal judge has ordered an immediate sweep of 12 postal districts, including here in New Hampshire, after the Postal Service said in court today that some 300,000 ballots have been received but not scanned for delivery.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. We can tell you that the USPS said it was unable to meet the 4:30 p.m. deadline, but said it would complete the sweeps in the battleground states by the time's polls closed. The order was in response to a lawsuit against the USPS that claimed that several districts where ballots must be returned by Tuesday had low processing scores, indicating that the ballots were received by the Postal Service but not confirmed to have been delivered. In addition to New Hampshire, the locations included Maine, Vermont, Central Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Detroit, Colorado, Wyoming, Atlanta, Houston, Alabama, Great South Carolina, South Florida, Lakeland, Wisconsin, and Arizona. Dow futures fall 200 points as election night fails to yield a clear winner. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures fell in volatile trading Wednesday as a result of the presidential contest, so far failed to yield a clear winner on election night, disappointing investors who wanted a certain outcome. Record early votes lead to tranquil election day at polls. Let's take a listen to that video right now.
Hey, Paul here, owner of Century Roofing. I personally wish to thank the thousands of our customers for supporting our team.
Guys, look at the boat. You're in the right place. Come on, just follow the sidewalk right around.
I woke up super early today because I didn't know how lines were going to be. So I didn't know it was going to be this quick.
This election seems more important than most. I know they say that for every election, but this one in particular, all I can do is do my part.
Hi, ma'am. Thanks for voting. Would you like a sticker?
Hatred is on the front lines. You know, people aren't afraid to be hateful anymore. It feels a bit different, but it also feels very much the same. A lot of people were fearful to come out and vote today. You know, and for me, I didn't want to let fear stop me from actually voting on election day.
About 15 minutes, you should be in and out. Thanks for coming out.
Okay, and there is a look at that video. Despite fears of clashes at polling places, chaos sparked by the coronavirus pandemic and confusion due to disinformation and swiftly changing voting rules, millions across the U.S. cast ballots in a historically continuous election with few problems. About 103 million votes were cast before Election Day as early voting pushes prompted by the pandemic that took some of the pressure off polling places on Tuesday, which generally saw short or no lines as coronavirus cases were on the rise. Daily confirmed cases were up 43% over the past 2 weeks in the U.S., according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. Every election day comes with problems as millions of people try to cast ballots simultaneously in 50 states, but experts were relieved that they were relatively rare at a time when partisan battles over voting reached a fever pitch. Though the casting of ballots were relevantly tranquil, legal storm clouds hung over the continuing of those votes. Both parties had fought a massive battle in courts trying to shape the truth of the election, and that seemed likely to continue beyond Tuesday. President Donald Trump has already threatened legal action to prevent the continuing of ballots that arrive after Election Day, which some states allow. 2 federal lawsuits in potentially divisive Pennsylvania aimed to prevent absentee votes from being counted. The GOP has laid the groundwork at the Supreme Court for an effort to exclude ballots that arrive after polls closed there Tuesday. Trump has rallied over several days about the High Court's pre-election refusal to rule out those ballots and said he'd go in with lawyers. Trump has spent much of the campaign groundlessly trying to sow doubt about the accuracy of vote count and casting doubt on mail balloting. It led to great voter stress, but fears didn't materialize at the polls. In Iowa, hand sanitizer on voters' hands caused ballot counting machines to jam briefly in Des Moines, but the problem was fixed and voters' voting went smoothly. Officials reported a calm day. In Pennsylvania, a judge in Democrat Joe Biden's hometown extended voting at 2 precincts inside an elementary school for 45 minutes beyond the normal 8 p.m. close of voting because machines had been down earlier in the day, said a county spokesman. The last Las Vegas area voters cast their ballots shortly after 9 p.m. Tuesday after a court order kept 30 polling places open late in Nevada's largest county, where some polling places had been slow to open. There were also a few other issues with voting technology. Electronic poll books from voting equipment vendor failed in Ohio's second largest county and in 2 small Texas counties, facing voting delays as officials replaced them with paper poll books. Those who did vote on Election Day included some who wanted to vote by mail but waited too long to request a ballot or didn't receive their ballot in time. Election officials had to scramble and rejuggle procedures to allow for a huge surge in mail voting as voters sought a way to avoid exposure of the coronavirus at the polls. Despite warnings of clashes between Trump and Biden supporters, there were no wide-scale intents of voting interdiction. Indeed, in battleground Michigan, demonstrators from the opposing camps initially shouted at each other through blowhorns outside suburban Detroit polling places, but ended up joining together to sing God Bless America. Law enforcement officials breathed an inaudible sigh of relief. There were reports, as there are in every election, of efforts to discourage people from voting that surfaced in robocalls in a few states. The FBI was investigating, but there were no large-scale cyber attacks that upended voting. Instead, voters were often pleasantly surprised. A person in Phoenix said, who turned 18 months ago, accompanied his cousin, who turned 18 on Election Day, to the polls yesterday. A former Denver clerk whose group Vote from Home has helped local election officials step up their mail voting options during the pandemic said the ability for more than a half of all voters to cast ballots before Tuesday was clearly a significant factor in the quieter day. She noted that fairly smooth election operation came even as Congress wouldn't give local officials an estimated $3.6 billion they needed to help transfer their systems during the pandemic. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.